So a lot of students find it very difficult to decide how they will approach an examination when there's only 1 month left before the exams. So in today's video, we will be essentially talking about what are the things that you should concentrate when there's just 1 month left, or a little more or less than that, when you have examinations around the corner. So let's first look at the points which we need to keep in mind. So the first is confirmation of exam schedules and other details. The next thing that you will be doing is preparing notes. And the final thing is setting the biological clock. So we will be looking into these 3 points one after the other in details and see in what ways we can make our preparations much more efficient and give a better examination. So the first point is confirmation of exam schedules and other details. The first thing that you need to do is cross-confirm the exam routines, that is the dates and times of the examinations for every subject. Read any rules or regulations pertaining to the exam that you're sitting for. So for example, there are certain examinations which allow you certain things in the examination hall and do not allow certain other things. There are examinations where you're not allowed to tie your hair. There are examinations where you're not allowed to wear a particular kind of cloth or something of that. So make sure you know the rules and regulations for the examination that you're sitting for. Also, since there's 1 month left, so if there is any miscommunication regarding the exam routines, so for example, your friend might be saying that a particular examination is on a given day, but your notice or your documents say that it's on a different date, you have sufficient amount of time to confirm exactly which day the examination is on. There might be situations where you might be confused as to which examination is happening on which day. So you should keep sufficient amount of time to adjust the information that you have at hand. This also allows for a lot of documents that need to be accounted for. So you might be missing certain documents, and this gives you ample time to prepare all the documents that you need for certain examinations. Essentially, this point revolves around the official part or the formal part of the examination, the formal documents that are required, the settings and everything. The next thing that you need to go through is the syllabus and check if all the notes are organized. So if you have been preparing for an examination for a year or half a year, there might be instances where you have prepared one note from one chapter, from one book, and from you're preparing some other chapter from another book. So there might be a multiple number of books that you have followed, and there might be multiple copies that you have written the notes. You have taken help from different teachers and they have all given different amount of different types of notes. And what happens is right before examination, when you need to refer to these notes, if they are in a haphazard order or if they are not compiled properly, then it will be very difficult to refer to those notes. So when you have sufficient amount of time at hand, that is 1 month, it's a high time that you compile the notes that you have. So you can collect them properly, organize them in a file or whatever suits you. You can write down the notes in a particular format. You can join different notes. So if for example, there are 3 professors who have given 3 different notes for the same answer, you can just sit down and merge the 3 notes and form one compact answer for that particular answer, for the particular question essentially. So organization also helps you to go through the materials that you have. It gives you a bird's eye view of essentially what are the materials that you need to go through, and it gives you a very brief overlook of what you have done, if there is anything that you need to prepare. So for example, if there are certain points that you suddenly realize that you have not gone through or you don't have the notes for, so you can collect those notes if you have sufficient time. And since I've put it in blocks, take time to get the routine right. So the routine is of course the most important part of an examination. You can't, you have prepared for physics and you go to the examination hall and find that there's a chemistry examination that day. That would be the worst thing to happen. So of course, take time to get the official documents right. See that you have, there are certain examinations which require certain documents. So there are identification documents needed in certain examinations. So make sure that you have the documents in order. So that's the first thing. The next thing is preparing notes. This is also, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it is a very important part of the examination preparation procedure. So check with the syllabus whether you have covered all the topics. That is what I mentioned in the previous slide. Avoid selective studying or leaving out unimportant topics. So there are certain students who go through the past papers and find out which topics are more important and which topics are less important. What happens is, if you leave out certain unimportant topics and you focus only on the important topics, nobody will support you if at the examination, at the end of the examination, you get questions which are from the unimportant sections which you left out and you say those were not important questions. Nobody will support you. You have to read all the topics in the syllabus. Every single topic needs to be covered. You need to know at least something. So what you can do is, when you read the past papers and you know which topics occur more frequently than the others, you can give more weightage to those. Or in fact, sometimes what happens is, if there is a particular question which is reoccurring every year, there are chances that it might not actually reoccur in your year. So based on the past papers, you need to analyze which questions are more probable and which questions are less probable. You can adjust the weightage or the intensity of your studying that particular topic based on the past papers analysis. You can sometimes approach professors or teachers or adults to help you in that analysis of the past year papers. But what I want to say is, do not leave out certain topics. So I'm saying this from my own experience. We had certain important portions in our history examination, and quite a lot of my friends, they just left out the unimportant questions. It was a pretty big examination, and what happened is the unimportant questions actually came, and there were certain miscommunication, not exactly miscommunications, there were certain upheavals, essentially, that the questions were out of syllabus. When I was asked about this, I said that the questions were not essentially out of syllabus, because the questions had their answers in our textbook. The answers were in our textbook, but they were not the important answers. They were the ones which we sometimes studied for 2 marks or 3 marks, the short answer type questions. So since I had actually studied those, albeit not in details, but since I had studied some of it, I could write quite a few amount of it. And I could, put other information from my general knowledge, and I could actually stand with a sufficiently stable answer for that question. What happens is, if you read the entire syllabus, there might be situations where you don't know the answer to that particular question to be very precise or exact, but judging by the knowledge from the entire syllabus, you can make up an answer on spot in the examination hall. So knowing the entire syllabus can sometimes prove to be advantageous when the questions are out of syllabus, not essentially out of syllabus, or their questions are relevantly unimportant compared to the other ones that you have studied. So try to avoid selective studying, and preferably do not leave out any sections from the syllabus. The next is, prepare a small notebook for keynotes and important tables or diagrams. So this is something that I have always done. What I do is, if there's 100% of the syllabus, essentially what I do is I take a small diary or I take a small notebook, and I try to find out the key words for the chapter. So I remember what I used to do in my life science paper was, I had a copy, and it had the definitions of, like, all the definitions were listed one after the other. Because in our life science examination, we used to a lot of definitions would be asked. So I had a separate copy for all the definitions. First chapter definitions, second chapter definitions. It had list of definitions one after the other. Then after that, I used to have the list of all the physics equations, chemistry equations, physics diagrams. Essentially, those were the prime components. Those were the key words or the key notes of the answers that I would prepare. Everything else would fall into place if I could have those essential components right. So preparing a small notebook, these preparations essentially also, again, as I mentioned before, it gives you an overall view, and it gives layers of preparation. Another thing that others, what I would like to say is, pertaining to this, there are students who put a lot of effort into the first chapter, then they move on to the second chapter, and by the time they have moved on to the 5th chapter, they have forgotten everything that they studied with the first chapter. So instead of doing that, what you can do is, following these, preparing the keynotes, preparing the analysis of the past year papers, going through the syllabus and seeing if everything is order or not, essentially creates layers. So you're not just studying chapter 1 or just chapter 5, such that after 5 chapters you've forgotten what you read about a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, you're preparing the entire syllabus in layers. So in the first go, you have all the layers, all the chapters done 20%. Then once you prepare the notebooks, you have 40% of all the chapters done. Then once you prepare the keynotes and the important tables and diagrams, you have 60% of the chapters, all the chapters done. So essentially, all the chapters move at the same pace and you don't essentially forget what you have done before. It creates layers, and I personally feel it's a more efficient way of preparing for examinations. So the last thing here on this slide is read additional materials only if you're confident with the given syllabus. So there are certain students, again, a couple of my friends as well sometimes, what they do is they try to read extra and they put in a lot of effort in finding out things that are out of the syllabus, that are out of the blue, which they think is important, mind you, but is not essentially. So what you need to do is precisely read through the syllabus and find out exactly what there is in the syllabus. Only after being very confident with the given syllabus, I know everything that there is to the syllabus, only after that you can venture out into the unknown. And even if you want to venture out in small steps, don't complete a chapter and then move on to the most advanced topic of that chapter. Go use baby steps and take one advanced topic at a time. So that will help you remember what you have already done with respect to that particular topic that you have covered. The next is setting the biological clock. Now, this is a very important, and I find it a very efficient way. So what is a biological clock? So if you're inquisitive, the first 3 things that will come to your mind is what, how, and why. So let's first find out what essentially is a biological clock. Now, this diagram is, how should I say, a diagram. This is a metaphorical way of showing the biological clock. So biological clocks are essentially an organism's natural timing devices. So they regulate the cycle of circadian rhythms, and they're composed of certain specific molecules or proteins that interact with the cells throughout the body. Nearly every tissue and organ essentially contains a biological clock. What happens is they essentially tell us the time that a body follows. They tell us when to sleep, when to wake up. And in our case, with respect to the examination preparations, biological clocks can help our brain activity. So if we set our biological clock in a certain order, then they can help our brain work at a much efficient way at a given period of time. So the circadian biological clock is controlled by a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, which is essentially a group of cells in the hypothalamus that responds to light and dark signals. From the optic nerve of the eye, the light travels to the SCN, signaling that internal clock that it is time to awaken, or it's time to sleep, based on the light surroundings that we have, or based upon the practices that we essentially involve ourselves in. So essentially, that is what I mean by biological clock. Now, why do we need to train our biological clock? So your brain always finds a way to work in the most efficient way by using the least amount of energy. When exams are not knocking at your door, try this experiment. Write a few pages of journal every night before going to sleep after some weeks or months, depending on how fast your body can readjust, how much you're concentrating on the work at hand, and a lot of other factors. You'll realize that you start thinking about all the events that happened that day every night before going to sleep, just because every night you're writing a journal and you are practicing recollecting the entire day's events that happened. So essentially, your body has tuned in to using the specific amounts of energy required to recollect that day's event. The same setup should be taught to your brain before an examination as well. It will allow your brain and hands to work faster when the time comes. Now, how do we set the biological clock? So that's simple. Try solving test papers at the exact same time every day when the exams are supposed to be held. So for example, if the exams are meant to be held from 9 to 12, then solve papers in that exact same interval. If you want, you can extend the interval by 1 or half an hour before or after the said interval. This should increase the interval of high brain activity. In fact, you can try solving more than a single test paper in one sitting. So that can also be readjusted based on your own preferences. But make sure you're solving, as in handwriting the solution and not just reading answers. So there are some of us just read through the answers and read through the notes and read everything, but the examinations, if there's a high probability that your examination is a written examination, not a viva examination, or how fast you can read examination. So just reading the answers won't help. You have to write the examination, and training your voice or training how fast you can read instead of not training your hands will also not help. So as I mentioned before, try solving more than one paper in a single sitting. And essentially, as I mentioned, your brain activity needs to be increased during that particular interval of time. Like, you have a sufficient constant amount of energy. You can't increase your brain activity for the entire day. What you can do is, instead of using the entire energy divided throughout the day and doing different activities throughout the day at an equal brain capacity, you are concentrating you're concentrating more energy, or you're giving out more energy, or you're using or consuming up more energy during the set amount of set time interval or time period where your examinations will occur. So what that can do is, it can also increase your writing speeds, and soon you will have to think less hard when writing answers, and you will feel that your hand will work faster. So what happens is, essentially, a lot of students is, we know the answers, but when we try to write the answers, we are thinking that we are writing this answer, but when we are trying to write, the information doesn't come out. Basically, our hands can't keep up with the pace with our thoughts, and it creates a lot of confusion, because our brain is thinking something, our hands are doing something else. So there needs to be a connection. The faster the connection is, the better your skills will be, the better we will be able to write our answers. And solving test papers will train your hand muscle memory as well. So there's something called a muscle memory. And what happens is, if you're writing fast enough, A, B, C, D, when you're writing, you are thinking that, okay, this is the spelling. If you keep on writing, a lot of times you won't have to think that hard, and your basic thought process will help your hand understand exactly what you need to write. So that also helps in what you need to write during the examinations. So these are some particular tricks and tips that can help you prepare for your examination when there's 1 month left before the examination. Of course, the final call will be based upon the student, because they have their own preferences, they have their own subjects. It also, to some extent, depends on the examination that the student is sitting for. But these are kind of, the go-to measures to prepare for an examination when there's 1 month before the examination occurs.